Hey everyone, my name is Candis Dyer and this is Canna Corner. We are broadcasted live every Monday on the Candis Dyer Facebook page, as well as now over on the Relevant app, which, I'll put all the links in after the show. So y'all can look in our comments over on Facebook or Relevant, either one, and find the links to everything that I talk about in the comments, so you can find it. But the Relevant app is an amazing app that they actually want all cannabis people over there. So Winnie Love Edge and her wonderful wife are creating a new outlet called Weedopedia over there, and they want all the cannabis people to go over there. Uncensored content, y'all, so you won't get blocked. They actually want us over there, and just go like every one of those groups on Weedopedia because they all rock. We've got KM420 over there, we got WJAE, we've got Mountain High 10 now, Canna Care Ops over there, just a bunch of cannabis groups are over there. Ask Mary. So just like every one of those under the Weedopedia, and you'll start building a community that we can actually fight back with Facebook on, because right now, with the numbers over there, that's the best place to get the most reach. But they don't have anyone competing against them really, because everywhere kind of censors in some way, shape, or form. So if we build this app up, then we can make Facebook actually maybe do some of the stuff that we want them to do, instead of just banning everything, calling it spam when it's not, and all that good stuff. So I'm not saying get rid of Facebook. We all know the numbers are over there, but this is a place where when you get blocked on Facebook, you can still get a hold of your cannabis community over there. And then when we get the numbers built up like it is over there, it'll be a great place to get your business going over there, and be an amazing thing. So I can't wait. Yes, educate more people. We're not being blocked. We're not being blacked out. We get blacked out for using the word cannabis in our page or whatever. Facebook blacks it out, and unless somebody shares a link and they're not already a member of that page, they will not find it when they go to search it up. It's what they call a blackout. So none of that on Relevant. They actually want us there. Y'all go join it. Great app, and I'm loving it so far. They're working on later being able to get lives like video over there too, but right now it's audio. And they are also working on being able to share more than one picture and stuff like that. So it's getting better, and they want our input on it. So if you see something that you want over there that it's not, let them know, and they'll start building it. They want to hear our input on it. So I want to thank and give a big shout out to all of our sponsors: the Human Solution International, KM420 Radio, WJAE 420 Radio, and Relevant. Over on Relevant, we will be going live on the Ask Mary, which is going to be a kind of new thing. We are going to be like going over different articles and stuff that I read during the week. So I'm thinking about doing it like on a Friday, but I haven't set a set date yet. But I'm only doing that on Relevant. I'm not going to do that on Facebook. So the only way you're going to be able to hear that or see or any of that, you're going to have to go download that app. And we've got a giveaway of over $100 worth of Willow Creek Springs as soon as we hit 100 members. I believe this week I hit 70. So 30 more members and we'll be doing the giveaway. And that's $100 worth of Willow Creek Springs products, y'all. Over $100. One lucky winner. All you got to do is be a member of Ask Mary. Say hi. You're set to be in the drawing for winning all that loot, y'all. So Heck yeah. Today I've got an amazing guest, and I'm going to go ahead and call her or message her right now and let her know that she can call in. She is wanting to be on the phone today, so we always accommodate our guests. Her name is Joy Graves, and she is fighting a cannabis case, and she needs our help. So she's going to be coming on shortly and telling us all about it. Her case is the 22nd and the 23rd at 9:30 at Lynn County, Oregon. So I'll let her tell y'all all about it. Here we go. Here she is. Hey, Joy, how are you doing today?
Hi, how are you?
Doing fantastic, love. I was totally looking forward to our interview today. I know you've had some crazy stuff happen, and I know that you were wanting to come on to try to get some court support out where you're at. I'm going to go ahead, and I've already told them your name, Joy, and if you want to just get started in like the backstory of how all of this started.
Okay, well, starting at the present right now, I'm scheduled for trial Wednesday morning at 9:30. The charges are a claim of cannabis DUI, which there's no such thing. Driving while suspended, which is, federally a question mark. Reckless driving, which I guess is automatic when they claim cannabis DUIs, and driving uninsured. So this stemmed back to a stop in Lynn County, Oregon, January 16th, 2016. Our church had been in an all-day civil rights march and protest event up in Portland. And while I was returning the church vehicle back to the sanctuary, I was traveling down the interstate, and a cop got behind me, got real close up on me, blinded me several times in my mirrors with his lights. Every time he would do that, I kind of let off the gas and kind of swerve over toward the fog line. I was already going 10 miles under the coastal speed limit because it was dark and rainy and foggy and that. So, but the fourth time he followed me over to that line, the fog line, he actually followed me over to the fog line the last time. And so when I was going back into the lane, to try to get his lights out of my eyes, he hit his overheads, and so I went ahead and I crossed over the fog line, pulled over, and ultimately he ran me through some DRE tests, which, I don't understand the point of that. There is no real test for cannabis intoxication. There's no machines or anything known to man that can determine an intoxication at the moment of a question mark of it. But nonetheless, because he disregarded my disabilities and my health issues, I put my foot down at the 29-second mark instead of 30 seconds. And also with my health issues, I have issues with balance. Been long on the record for 20 years of my medical history easily. And so he said I use my arms to kind of balance myself on 2 different occasions. And so that was grounds for a fail. Those tests, according to the federal government, aren't even accurate for drug driving tests, but how they think they apply to cannabis, I have no idea. Anyway, this, the day of that protest, we had just filed a case in federal court in Oregon against the post office, which was supposed to also include the state of Oregon, because they had been retaliating against me and officer members of our church that Jack Harris started since 2009. And we had multiple complaints filed all the way up through the state level into the FBI office by the end of 2009 for retaliatory acts and profile targeting, discrimination, civil rights declaration, stuff like that.
Right.
And so it kind of was an escalation of that. The attorney that was hired botched it, didn't protect us from the state level. We had media people at that rally point out to us, the head of the DEA of Oregon and Washington State, who was in the process of pointing us out to the state police, which we were harassed for over 6 hours until that event's end. So, I feel that this was clear retaliation for the federal case that had been filed that day. My attorney is court appointed. I don't know if he's genuinely a chicken shit or if he's just supposed to be acting this way to railroad me into trial. He hasn't filed any motions. He hasn't met with me, even when the judges told him he was supposed to sit down and meet with me in person, go over motions that needed to be filed for pretrial. He has not done that. He hasn't prepared anything in any way, for this case. He hasn't talked to any witnesses, hasn't talked to any of the experts that I wanted him to talk to and have subpoenaed. He hasn't done any of that. He hasn't obtained any evidence like jail footage, stuff like that I feel is essential. And yet he admits, as of Thursday, he admitted, it's going to trial Wednesday. He admitted it wasn't ready to go to trial, but he also said he's not going to tell the court that, and if they call the case forward, he's going to proceed. So I went ahead just about a half hour or so ago, and I sent him a notice of termination because I just don't feel comfortable walking into a trial situation. I mean, I can't. He won't even give me the accurate case number. I got 2 different case numbers from him regarding this case.
Well, you know what? Let's kind of talk about that for a minute, because as citizens, we are guaranteed certain rights, right? It says that we are, if we don't have the money for an attorney, we have the right to get a court-appointed attorney. But what they don't tell you is those court-appointed attorneys, I believe, work for the state. That they are I'm hearing time and time again how they're not doing their job for the person they're working for. They're doing the job for the state. That's who's paying them. So
absolutely, and then my church just apparently too, I'm being told now, filed a bar complaint as well on him for constructively depriving me of my 5th and 6th Amendment rights of the state and federal constitution, which is exactly what you're talking about. It's a circus show, and that's what I did when I went to court in 2015. They busted our church for trying to cultivate some cannabis for some combat veterans, and we went in there in 2014, and it was the same thing. They, even though it was in the process of going recreational, even though they knew that I had enough cards under me state issue to where I could have protected the garden, they pounce. What people think Oregon is not at all laid down when it comes to cannabis. Most of the law enforcement that we encounter are resentful at the fact that cannabis is as lax as it is in Oregon under the laws, and they're taking it out on anybody they catch with it.
Right. Well, I've heard already from police officers out of their mouth. They weren't exactly directly talking to me, but it was when we were out testifying here in Texas, they were saying that that's the only way that they can get in a car and search it is if they smell marijuana, and that they're finding other drugs in these marijuana cars so that they won't be able to make as many charges on people, because meth and stuff don't smell, but cannabis does. And they're trying to say that because we use cannabis, we're using other drugs too, which is totally false. So that's why they're mad that it's getting legal, because now it's not going to be something they can go, I smell weed, I'm searching your vehicle. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's what they did with me. They pulled me out of the car, and when they arrested me at the scene, they swore that I was drunk and stoned. And I mean, I'm using their words there. And, I tried to explain to them, I'm no more drunk than I am stoned. And, I'm tired. It's a dark, rainy, foggy night. You're blinding me with your lights. And I don't understand what's going on as I was arrested. So when they took me to jail, they immediately took me to the breathalyzer. The whole way there, I was telling them I wanted to talk to my attorney. It's even documented in the court records.
Right.
That this was the thing, I wanted to talk to my attorney. They put me straight on the breathalyzer, said I wouldn't be able to talk to my attorney until I complied. So I complied with that. I blew 0.04 times. And still, that whole time I was held there for several hours. They never let me talk to my attorney like I asked it. They just kept coercing me. Like, when I passed the breathalyzer, I started a little sarcastic. I said,
Right.
"Oh, does this mean you're not going to take my blood?" Because that's the next step of the protocol. And he says, "Well, I'm not going to take your blood, but if you want to go home, you're going to give me your urine." And again, I kept saying, "I want to talk to my attorney." And they wouldn't let me talk to either. I had at that point, I had a civil rights attorney in Portland, and I had an attorney in Eugene,
Right.
who's time and cannabis defender, and they wouldn't let me talk to them. They just pushed me through, did what they wanted to do, and they put me on this conditional release that practically killed me. I got 73 pounds. I couldn't use any of not only my cannabis medications, but they wouldn't even let me renew my medical insurance so I could get my antibiotics and all the other prescription medications that are recommended to me because of my health issues.
Right. Man, well, before we get any further ahead, I want to touch on two subjects. One being this test, the so-called test that they use, that I'm sure half the people here will agree with me. Me being sober, have a hard time completing these tests they ask you to do. Walk lines, and they try to trip you up. Like, start at this now, and you're already nervous as hell because most people haven't been drug out of their car and made to do this very many times. So you're already shaken and nervous. So this test is almost impossible to pass to begin with. And you did great up until the very last step. You kind of messed up a little bit, but you have a issue with balance. And they shouldn't have even given you this test to begin with because of it, right?
Right. There is an alternate test to the DRE test. But what I found out in my research is that, like, when they make you touch your nose or they make you walk that line and turn and come back and all, those aren't even federally approved as for drunk driving.
They aren't.
So they're reaching, just from the get-go, they're reaching.
Right.
And like I said, they arrested me saying I was drunk and stoned. The breathalyzer said I wasn't drunk. Even then, they wrote in the notes in their conclusion, they said, well, the breathalyzer test is not conclusive with our opinion, so she must be stoned and on an opioid too. But the urine test only shows a metabolite of cannabis. Well, they call it meth, but and that doesn't prove intoxication.
No, it doesn't.
No test that can prove intoxication at the moment, and even the federal government says, effects from cannabis only last at most 2 hours, and if anything,
exactly,
the people that are on cannabis are driving more safe and slow and cautious and constantly aware of their surroundings, and this is why, because we've been under this gun from law enforcement.
Exactly.
We were born into this. Even Jack was born into this. They outlawed. They started this in 1937. He was born in 1939. So, I mean, this has been ongoing. And it's insane because so many people, according to the court here, the DA says over 200 people in Oregon have plea bargained guilty on cannabis DUI when there's no such thing. And not one has gone to trial yet. So
because they bully you. They say, we're going to give you 20 years or you can plead guilty and you get a year. So, they bully you into taking this plea bargain on this chart. And I mean, I want to touch base on why there isn't a test yet to find out if you have marijuana in your system. And that is because marijuana we have an endocannabinoid system. And unlike toxins, our bodies absorb it instead of pushing it out because our bodies need it. So therefore, it takes 30 days for that, and sometimes more, for our urine and blood to come up without cannabis. So they can't possibly tell you that you smoked at this certain time. It's 30 days. I mean, you could have smoked 30 days ago. They don't know. And that's why there's not a test for cannabis right now. And
we were advocate against the Washington's 502 because they were the ones suggesting that there was a nanogram level that would prove impairment. And I mean, if you were to take a puff right now of cannabis and then stop, it would take, according to the doctors up there, it would take at least 64 to 68 days to not feet above that nanogram level of not smoking after that last puff.
Right.
So it's insane to me how people think that these regulatory laws are liberation of the plant, because it's not. If anything, it's tripping up more people, causing more grief to
Right.
users. And one of the main things that, you know, they haven't even touched on is that at the time of that stop, I was a registered Oregon and California medical cannabis patient. So, and I had been since 1998 when Oregon initiated the law. So,
Right.
even, you know, what does that do? What is this law doing for all the cannabis patients that, you know, are not?
You know what it
impaired?
does? It shuts people up. I mean, and because the normal average person doesn't go read all these little laws and the all they hear on the news is cannabis is legal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so people are like, oh, okay, it's legal now, we can shut up and quit fighting. But no, now there's all these regulations and rules, and you got to be very careful what laws you allow to pass into effect, you know.
Yeah. And there's issues, and you're down in Texas, so I'm sure you're familiar. I've got a former Texas deputy sheriff down there who has come out on YouTube, and he's been explaining, you know, hour at a time on how driving isn't even, you know, these driving codes that they try to enforce are not even legal laws.
Right.
Because they won't by the legislature. So, you know, I pointed all these things out to my public parrot, and he says, well, I see what you're saying. And I mean, technically you're right, but, you know, ultimately he's too afraid to file anything. He's too afraid to put together a defense. He hasn't tried. And I'm concerned that here I am, you know, the day after tomorrow, 9:30 a.m., he says that they're even pushing a violent felon who has 7 felony charges, including a gun charge. They're pushing his case out because they're afraid that the statute of limitations is going to run out on my case, even though it's a misdemeanor case. And according to the statutes, they only had 2 years to prosecute. This was from January 2016. So the fact that they're going to assemble a 6-person jury trial on site and take this into trial and waste this kind of taxpayer money on a misdemeanor, it dumbfounds me when my attorney says to me, he says, well, you're facing a year now, which this is new to me, right? Because he initially said 10 days.
Right.
Then it last, a week and a half ago, he said up to 6 months. Now he says a year. And then he says, and then I have to go through drug and alcohol treatment, which I wasn't drunk, so I don't understand the alcohol aspect and all that. But then I said, well, okay, but what about, because I'm a medical cannabis patient? And he says, oh, well, then they won't count cannabis in your urine during that process. Well, then what the hell is
why are you even going through the process? Like, what the hell?
Right. Other than just to waste taxpayers' money. I mean, that's the only thing. And two, like I said, it's retaliatory. They didn't Jack formed the United Cannabis Ministries back in 2005. He was bringing all the cannabis churches together to stand up to protect the plant, the people, because he felt that was the only way that we were going to do that. And so, you know, they have.
And this literally is what put a bullseye on your back from the sheriffs there, is that you were participating and fighting for cannabis to be free, to be a choice.
I even had the deputy director of the Oregon ACLU tell me in 2019, as well as back in 2017, she asked me, she says, do you believe there's a conspiracy on you in your church? And I said, I don't want to answer that because I don't want to sound crazy. She goes, well, let me answer it for you. I believe there is a conspiracy. From the Oregon State Law Enforcement, they have a meeting every month where they come together, the Sheriff's Association, and they talk about, you know, people of interest. She says, I believe they are profile targeting your church because your church is defending cannabis.
And don't you love how they like to throw that in there, that word? I mean, conspiracy theorists, like, because I don't agree with what the government is doing and what they're saying. All of a sudden now I'm some conspiracy theorist, some tinfoil hat wearing crazy person, when and that's what they're doing when they label you that. because that's what people believe conspiracy theorists are. But the truth is, conspiracy theorist people are like you and me, who don't agree with what the government's doing or getting away with. And they are doing a lot of the things people think are a conspiracy.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, even the most damning thing, in my opinion, the discovery that I've got, I actually, after I was arrested, put in their cop car, they went over, they took cannabis from my pocket, okay, because that's where I had cannabis. The only place I had actual cannabis was in my coat pocket. It was loose in both my pockets because it was given to me throughout the course of the day.
Right.
Our pipe broke during the opening ceremony at noon that day. So, you know, they were giving me the count. I put it in my pocket. They took it out of my pocket, arrested me, put me in their car. Then the cop walks over with the other cop. They start illegally searching the church vehicle. They're carrying on about how there's so much cannabis in that car. The cannabis is worth more than the car. Right now, I mean, it was an old cop car, so it was only maybe $3,000 or $4,000 car. But I had 7 grams of cannabis in my pocket. All the rest of the cannabis they were talking about was my outfit that's made of cloth material, that's cannabis leaves and lays and stuff like that. I had a full entire outfit.
Oh my God.
That day. So they were thinking, when they, you know, initially they thought, oh wow, look, we got a
And
car.
why are they saying that it's so much money? How are they making money on this if they just burn it like they say? Like, or what are they doing with this cannabis that they are stealing from us? That's so much money that they're getting from it. Like, if they're just burning it.
Yeah, because we've suggested for years now, Stormy Ray Foundation and I both have told Oregon for years, all the cannabis that you seize, why don't you give it to a program so that the medical patients who can't afford medicine can get it that way?
Right.
You know, run it through the test, make sure it's safe.
Yeah.
But disperse it to patients in need.
Yeah, that's what they do with the deer that they take away from somebody that was shot illegally. And by illegally, I mean didn't get a state license so that they could shoot that deer.
Yeah, but we all know that the cannabis evidence, usually most of it is anyway. Remember, and then proceed to sure against constitute well. You know, I'm just more versed, you know, being a soldier's daughter in the federal law, which is my problem here. You know, the courts here in Oregon, they don't recognize your constitutional rights. In fact, I mean, it's point blank a war court when you walk in there, right down to the flags telling you so.
Right.
As soon as they call you up and you walk through that threshold, that little swinging door, unbeknownst to us, we're surrendering our constitutional rights until we're found guilty, punished, and hope to get a speedy appeal.
Right.
And get federal laws applied.
And I cannot stand 2 phrases they use: a jury of your peers, because they are not. The lawyers pick them, and get rid of the ones that would vote in your favor and keep the ones that will vote against you. And another thing is, what's the other thing? Let's move on because I forgot. I got a brain fart, I guess. But yes, I believe it's total fraud that they sit there and tell people, oh, they're going to be, if they're not guilty, they're going to be in front of a jury of their peers, so they won't be found guilty or whatever. It's just crazy.
No, I shouldn't have took the breathalyzer test until I talked to my attorney, but I didn't have anything to hide. So, you know, ultimately they weren't going to let me talk to my attorney. I had bronchial pneumonia. I had 4 layers of clothes on that were sopping wet because they had me outside the car running me through those tests in the rain and getting splashed by the passing traffic. I was shivering to the I was sick as a dog. And you don't want to get into general population. If you want to get out of here, you better just do what we want. And ultimately,
they bully you into it.
I felt, even though I knew that they were violating my rights, I felt that it was the only way to preserve my health at that point.
Well, most people think that as long as I go with what they say and I'm not doing anything wrong, I'll be found not guilty. Like most people, that's what they're taught. But no, I mean, so many cannabis lawyers will tell you, do not say nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. Because they are not there to help you. They are going to try to trip you up. And that is the only reason they're talking to you. And the only thing we're supposed to say is, I plead the 5th and I want my lawyer.
And I told them, you know, when they said the urine, I said, well, I mean, the only thing you're going to find in there is cannabis, because I know, I mean, cannabis stays in your system at least 30 to 45
Yep.
days on a test. So I told them that, you know, and they knew that. I think that's why they said when they called for the urine test in the reports, they were saying, well, it's not, the breathalyzer is not conclusive, so we're suspecting opioids now too.
But they didn't find any opioids either.
Right. A metabolite of cannabis is what they found.
And then instead of just saying, you know what, this lady, maybe she isn't really impaired, maybe it is her health, and letting you go, and okay, we made a mistake, they are doubling down and they are going to charge you with all kinds of stuff. That's crazy.
In 2006, they had passed a law here, they created a medical marijuana committee, which wasn't what Jack had written into the initial law, but they did it. You know, and they had passed a rule saying you had to have your card on you at all times. Well, prior to that, you didn't have to. You just gave them your name, and they could run it, and they could confirm you were a patient.
Right.
I didn't know that. I was coming down to the church, sicker than a dog, just straight out of the emergency room, and they pulled me out. The cop almost smacked into me, is what happened when someone was coming on the freeway and was emerging. And so he got behind me, pulled me over. He said there was a pin light hole in the tape on my tail light, and that he felt it was blinding to people. It was a ballpoint pen size hole.
Are you kidding me?
And so he pulls me over, and I'm thinking, wow, you have nerve after you almost hit me. Yeah, you're pulling me over. What the hell's going on? And he says right away, is that marijuana I smell? I said, probably. If you're part canine, I'm sure you do. You know? So we went through this, and I had a big garbage bag of leaves in there, and I had a 2-foot plant in there. And so next thing I know, I faced 10 years state court. I went in, I told them, you know, under the Oregon administrative rule, which the DA said he wasn't aware of, he only knew the revised statutes. I said, you know, I was allowed to have a lot more than what I had in that vehicle. I'm not guilty of this. And, you know, same drive on suspended and all that was attached to that too.
Right.
And the judge dismissed, you know, well, the judge recessed and he told the DA, go look at the Oregon revised, Oregon administrative rule, which Ms. Graves is referring to. He gave him almost an hour recess. He comes back and says, I still can't find it. I think she's been smoking something before she came to court. I even Googled it, Your Honor. I can't find this. And so the judge got pissed, and the judge says, well, I understand what she's saying, and she's right. He dismissed the case.
Good.
3 days later, I got a call from my attorney saying, Joy, they just put a felony warrant out for your arrest. I said, for what? He says, for that case. I said, the case was dismissed. He says, no, they went and they got a federal grand jury indictment against you.
What the fuck? See, they couldn't get you for it this way, so they're going to go get a federal charge on your ass.
Yeah. So I had to walk into court 3 days later, and the judge, you know, he says, what are you doing here? I said, I thought you could tell me. He says, didn't I dismiss this case? I said, yes, you did. And the DA stands up, he says, we got a federal indictment against Ms. Graves, you know, and so the judge looked at it, he goes, wow, Ms. Graves, you now face 56 years in federal prison for this case. And I said, well, let's fucking go to trial right now.
Right.
And so they assembled the 12-person jury. They had 24 in a room watching by monitor because they said they didn't want to miss trial. And less than 5 minutes for the jury, you know, the judge said there will be no evidence of cannabis, no talk, no nothing. Here comes the cop in with a dock scale that carry wobbling to the court. I said, what the hell is this? You know, in the judge's language, you know, and he says, what is this? Well, this is the dock scale we used to weigh the marijuana. And the judge fucking lost his shit. He told the jury to leave. He yelled at them and he says, there's going to be no talk of cannabis in this case. And finally the DA says, well, then I guess I don't have a case.
Oh my God.
But absolutely, and dismissed it. So again, you know, this is same county, same court, enterprise.
I give major props, by the way, to that judge. Like, that's a good judge right there.
Yeah. But to this day, even my public pretender, I tell him, I said, you need to go look at that case. He says he can't find it. He says, and even if they wiped it as an attorney, he said, even if they sealed it, he should be able to see that case.
Right.
There's no other case in 2006.
Oh, no, they messed up. So they got rid of the evidence on that.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, we have proof. They've done the same thing, you know, record changing on our president. Our president of the church, he pled guilty to 3 grams of cannabis possession back in 1991. But in 2010, when they were torturing Jack to death up here, they went into the computer and now it reflects his conspiracy to commit murder and treasony. So he hasn't even been able to get a job, and he was a union worker.
Oh my God.
Wow. So this county is totally corrupt. That's why we keep filing cases in the federal court.
Oh yeah,
I
they're
think-
mad that you're fighting and you're not just taking and you're not just bending over and say, yeah, give me whatever you're gonna give me. And so
Yeah.
now they are trying to find some other reason they can get you on. And this is the result of this. So what is it that you need from everybody for help?
Well, I mean, Joe says we need to call, how do you say
Call to
it?
action.
There you go. We just need awareness, you know. I mean, if I'm walking into court Wednesday, I fired the attorney today. The church filed a bar complaint today. I had a church member, because I've been sick and I've been around a lot of COVID people. So I had a church member try to walk in an emergency motion to remove and replace the council. The court wouldn't let her in, so she's going back and do that in the morning. But they're planning on 9:30 on Wednesday pursuing me into a trial despite, all the situation. And so physical presence, I agree with Joe. I think physical
Yes.
presence, people in the courtroom letting them know, hey, you know what?
You're being watched. We are watching you. You cannot mess with
Yeah.
this lady like you do people who are there by themselves. Yeah.
And I mean, hundreds of plea bargains, not just in Oregon, but California as well. As hundreds of people have pled bargained to this. People need to stop doing that.
Yes.
Because if so many people plead guilty to this, they're going to use that to justify incarcerating more and convicting more. And then pretty soon they're going to say, well, hey, statistically, 90% of the cannabis smokers have admitted they've been driving impaired. And so whether or not there's a test, let's nail them.
Right.
So they're helping anybody, including themselves, by taking a plea deal at
Yep.
all. No merit to this.
There isn't. And that's just it. Like I said, I've seen it with my son. So I've heard so many people tell me that I know I didn't do it, but it would have cost me more to fight it than just to go ahead and pay this. And I've seen, them go in there with my son and say, well, you can get 6 years or you can fight this and get 20 years of your life taken away. And I mean, they scare the shit out of you. And they may make you say that you're guilty, even though you're not. We get millions. Oh, I would love to see the real numbers on how many people actually go to a plea bargain and say they're guilty, even though they're not.
Yeah. And in places like Idaho, and they've done it here in Oregon to people I know too, they'll actually call child services to the roadside and say, either you're going to accept this and admit that you've done this, or we're going to take your kids.
That is wrong. That is, oh my God, what is that? That is, there's a word for it. I can't think of the word.
It's coercion.
Coercion, yes, that would be the word. Or trying to say, we're going to take your kids away from you if you don't say you're guilty. Like that is kidnapping, and the government's okay to do this stuff, y'all. This is crazy. But yes, her appointment or her court is Wednesday, the 22nd and the 23rd.
Yeah, 2 days is what it's scheduled for.
And then it's at 9:30 in the morning at Lynn County, Oregon.
Yeah, circuit court, and that's in downtown Albany, Oregon. It's right off of I-5 there. I'm going to try to see if I can't get this pulled over into the federal district court, if nothing else, because this judge that's actually pursuing me was named as a defendant in a federal case. Our church has filed we're involved in diversity filing against multiple states that are selling cannabis licenses, whether it's medical licenses or pro-grow dispensary, whatever, of this new industry. Because the states need to get, it's called an exemption to the Controlled Substance Act, and they know this.
Right.
The Supreme Court confirmed this 4 times in the last 4 years. They simply pay $200, fill out an application, and the states get an exemption to the Controlled Substance Act for cannabis. And then all the licenses everybody has are completely recognized and respected, even on the federal level. There would be no more consequences for these licensed people. And so we filed a RICO and racketeering and all that on these states because they're running kingpin drug enterprises according to the federal DEA and according to the IRS. And so we're trying to remedy this. And this judge was named as aiding and abetting in the retaliation where they're trying to prevent our churches. I mean, I'm a material witness in that case, and so are some of my other officer members. I've got recordings of them coming into our church threatening to kill our officer members. Like I said, they've been changing criminal records on officer.
Wow.
It's to the extent they're going to, because they don't want to pay taxes on the taxes they're collecting when they are required to pay those taxes, whether they get the exemption or not. So
Right.
the church that they're trying, that's what Jack wants us to do. We're trying to stop this. We're trying to get, sativa out of the prohibition, off of the Controlled Substance Act. She never should have been there. We're trying to get this stuff fixed. We're going through hell because, I'm afraid, and all of my members are afraid. I mean, they got me down to 73 pounds, and I couldn't walk for 10 months, depriving me of my medication and my physician's access and all of that. But we are all genuinely afraid. If they actually can get me into their custody, something is going to happen to me, and they're going to just make it sound like it's either my health conditions,
Right.
or maybe even say I suicided myself,
Right.
or something along those lines. Which as much as they get me down, that's not something I'm going to do in custody. It's important, I think, to let people know
Right.
that in case what they try to call.
No, I get you. So I know we're running out of a little bit of a time here, but I know that Becca Nicholas is going to be there with you. Y'all, this is a major call to action. More people are going to stand up and fight if they realize that they've got people that are behind them that will go to court with them. And it's so much easier to stand tall in front of a judge when you've got 20, 30 people behind you than if you're there by yourself. And it makes them act right. You've got eyes on you now. And they will go and they will talk about it after they leave this courtroom if you don't do your job and do it correctly. So if you are in the Oregon area in Lynn County, please hit me up, Becca up, and ask, where to meet Becca at, so that y'all can all go meet up over there. And let's get as many people as we can out to Joy's court. That's the 22nd and the 23rd of September at 9:30.
One thing I will throw out real quick, if it's possible,
No, you're good.
I have a retired civil rights attorney advising me that anybody who comes into court, if we can, even if it's secretly record, when I inform the judge that this case is not ready and I've fired the attorney and I want a replacement counsel, he says it's important that we get recording of whatever the judge is going to do with that, because he says that will ensure that we can get this into the federal court.
Yeah.
And
see, that's why they keep cameras out of the courtroom, because you can't use that evidence against them but yes, secretly, you can figure out how to get it done.
Yeah, he says if we can get evidence recordings from what goes on Wednesday, he's confident that we'll be able to figure out how to get it into the federal and get it pulled. And like I said, I mean, if we can get this addressed even at the federal level right now, the federal government's going to say, well, there is no way to prove this is legitimate allegation, because there is no machine or no test known to man to this day that can prove impairment on the scene.
Exactly.
Regarding cannabis. So even the federal court would dismiss this, and that would protect all future cannabis users.
Right, because then somebody's lawyer could say, no, in this case, blah, 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 Joy won because of this. And so then that can get other people off.
Absolutely. So anybody who comes, please, as scary as it might seem, please consider secretly recording what goes on in this courtroom so that we can get our people protected.
Well, I'm not going to give names, but I'm almost positive somebody there will decide to help with that. So, much love to you, Joy, man. Best of luck to you. I'm in Texas, or I would be there right with you, girl. But hopefully we can get some people in your area out there.
Absolutely. I think the more the better. Let them know it's not just me, and nailing me isn't just nailing me.
Right.
It's going to be their grounds to nail everyone else. So,
right.
We need to make the stand and let them know, hey, we are cannabis users, but we're responsible. We're not going to deal with your bullshit anymore. Here we are.
Exactly.
So thank you so much, sister, for the platform. I appreciate it. I appreciate the call to action. hopefully we'll get this taken care of and get our people safe.
Definitely, love. And anytime, I mean, it hopefully your case will be won and we can get you back on to talk about how everything went. If not, we can figure out how we're going to help fight to the next step or whatever, you know, and we're here to help you any way we can. And just know that we're all thinking and praying for you and hoping that we get as many people there as we can.
Thank you. And if they get me into custody, please, people, keep eyes on me, because God only knows what they're going to do to me, but I know it's not going to be good.
For sure, love, for sure.
I am the martyr for everybody, you know, whether people like me or not. I mean, I'm out here, I've been out here about the same my first time. And then, like I said, I faced a lot more, you know, time than they're threatening me now. But medically right now, I am not up for what they're going to try to play games with me and deprive me. And I mean, they've already got it where it's an uphill battle even just to get my medical recognized now.
Right.
For them than this lawyer. So I'm scared. I genuinely, for the first time going into court, even though this is a lot less than I've faced before, I am actually genuinely scared this time. Because
they're being so persistent,
yeah,
like
so unlawful, all the ways, everything.
And they're getting away with it. And y'all, this is why cops keep doing this. And people get mad at me all the time because I say cops are bad, and they're like, oh well, some cops aren't bad. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Some cops aren't bad. They go in there trying to do the right thing. But when those good cops watch that bad cop do what he does and let him get away with it because of brotherhood or whatever you call it, they now become the bad cop because you stayed silent and you didn't help the person that they were doing that to.
Yeah, and a little bit of yeast can ruin the whole batch.
Yep.
You know, and what it does, there are some good law enforcement, just like that judge I had before. You know, obviously there are some good judges too.
Right.
But the masses of them prove to not be. Then there's a problem. Yeah,
when it comes to losing their job, if they stand up, they're quiet about it because they don't want to lose their job. Well, you know, you can't be like that because it may be you, it may be your family one day that's happening to, and then what are you going to do?
Exactly. That's why I'm out here fighting the fights now in the hopes that people don't have to go through what I go through, you know. But it's just right now I am physically down because of their depriving me of all my rights that they are, you know.
Right.
And he says, I get no credit for this. I said, well, it's fuck, I've been like on a house arrest since 2019 because of this case. It's, you know, no credit for that either.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just all about torture, make this way. And like I said, you know, I was Jack, you know, front line here in the Northwest. And so, you know, I've got the target on my back. I carry it with pride. But I need backup from the community. I need to let them, but not just me alone that's willing to fight you guys. I'm just fighting because they shouldn't have to. Right.
Well, I really appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for being one to stand up and fight because, like you said, so many people give up and get scared and don't fight that case. And like you said, that's why people are getting charged with this still. If they didn't win these cases, then they would quit taking you to court over them.
Yep.
Well, awesome, love. I love you very much. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I'm sure Becca will keep me updated with your case, and just take a breather, relax. I know it's got to be hard, and we'll get you some people out there.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate you, Becca, Joe, Human Solutions, Cannabis Warriors. I can't thank you guys enough for hearing me, helping me, supporting the cause, because, you know, whatever happens to me at the end of the day, even if I'm dead at the end of the day, they're going to keep doing this. And like you said, it's going to be your kids or your grandkids or your cousins or your loved ones or employee, co-worker. You know, it's not going to stop. We have to stop this.
Amen.
So thank you for being out here and keeping the light on this.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I can't imagine doing anything else right now, for real. Much love and respect to you. You have a great night.
Alrighty, honey. You as well.
Bye-bye. So yes, y'all, that was Joy Graves. If you are in the Oregon area, it's going to be at Lynn County courthouse at 9:30, September 22nd, 23rd. Becca and Bobby and a few other people are showing up in force. If you are in the area, please contact me, contact Becca, and we will show you how to get in touch with them to find out where to meet up as a group to help her. And let's try to fix this, y'all. We can't let this stuff keep happening. So then on a different note, we have a few festivals and stuff coming up that I did want to talk about a little bit. I know that KM420 Radio, the Human Solution International, and Willow Creek Springs are sponsors of the Live Free Music Arts Festival, October 23rd. I'm super excited. I'm going to be flying out there on the 22nd, and going to be out there with Joe and a bunch of other people and Farah, KM420 Radio, and we're going to be going to the event and representing the Human Solution International, and get to see Wendy Love Edge, y'all. She'll be out there, and so many great musicians, a whole list, and I'll be sure to put the link in the comments. So that y'all can find that. And it's called Live Free Music and Arts Festival. It's in Arkansas, Fettyville, I think is how you say that, Arkansas. October 23rd from 1 to 10. So definitely, if you are in the Arkansas area and get your tickets, you can still get the early bird ones, I believe. And I will show you where to get those in the link in the comments when I get off here. Also, the Texas Hemp Convention, we got media passes for it, Canna Corner and the Human Solution International. So we will be definitely going and covering the event. I'm super, super excited about it. It is going to be on November 20th and the 21st. You can get your tickets there at texashempconvention.com. We went last year, freaking amazing, y'all. There were so many people, and they had an after party afterwards, and we all got to hang out. And I believe we're being invited to that again this year. So I look forward to doing that again. My husband is coming with me to help hold the camera and bring stuff in and stuff. And it's going to be a great time. So if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you would like to go, Texas Hemp Convention, y'all, go get your tickets at texashempconvention.com. Next week on Canna Corner, we have got Jared Alloway with Safer Shirts. So I'm really excited about that. He's going to be coming on. I don't know if y'all seen the Cannabis is Safer Than Alcohol shirt I have on, but they are the people who, I believe the person who started it is passed. And so he is like carrying on the Safer Shirts, and everybody is still spreading the word about the safer stuff. So that's awesome. He was with Safer Stencils, and now we got Safer Shirts, and there's all different kinds. Cannabis is safer than alcohol. Cannabis is safer than big pharma. Whatever you can think of. Peanuts. Cannabis is safer than everything. So safer than the police, and that's for sure. Cool. And then the next week we have Tracy and Greg Autry with Sweet Scentsy. They are going to be coming on to talk about the Texas Hemp Harvest Festival that's on the October 23rd. And hopefully Karen Reeves will come on too after and talk a little bit about it. She's going to be going to this event, and I think that Renee might be going too. I'm not sure. So yeah, that will be fun. Make sure I got all these. I feel like I'm forgetting an event. I hope I'm not. Okay. So relevant, y'all. If y'all have not gone yet, go over, download the app from the Google Play Store or Apple Store, and go on there, make you a quick profile, go to Wikipedia and click join group on everybody under there, and join our cannabis community, y'all. Let's get this going. Join Ask Mary, KM420 Radio, all the good people over there. So, and then, like I said, the 100-member giveaway, we will be doing a drawing at 100 members of the Ask Mary. So go say hi when you do. Much love and respect to each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all for joining me tonight. I had a good time. Much love and respect to you, Joy. My heart goes out to you, love. I'm so sorry you're having to go through this. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day.